Hi everyone, I'm Sir Art and I will be your teacher in this video tutorial. The topic that we're going to discuss is all about function as model, which is the content of the first module in quarter 1 of the Senior High School General Mathematics. In this video, you will learn how to represent real-life situations using function in simplest way because we're just going to follow the 4 steps that I'm going to introduce to you. The steps on representing real-life situations using functions. First step, what is asked? Determine what the problem requires you to do. Second step, what is given? Identify the given in the problem. Third step, what operation to be used? Decide the operation to be used as required by the problem. And the last step, write a number sentence. Represent the problem using a function notation. If possible, simplify the function. So those were the steps on representing real-life situation using function. Now, let us apply those steps in answering the following problems. The first problem is, give a function c that can represent the cost of buying X meals if one meal costs 40 pesos. So to answer this problem, we're just going to follow the 4 steps mentioned earlier. First step, what is asked? We need to determine what the problem requires us to do, which is to represent the cost of buying X meals wherein each meal costs 40 pesos. Second step, what is given? So the given in the problem is the cost of one meal, which is 40 pesos. And third step, what operation to be used? The operation to be used is multiplication, since we're just going to multiply the cost per meal to the number of meals. And the last step, we're going to write a number sentence based on the data gathered from the problem. So that will become the total cost is equal to the cost per meal times the number of meals. So we will let x be the number of meals and c of x be the total cost. Since each meal costs 40 pesos, you must multiply 40 by the number of meals x to know the cost of meals. Therefore, the cost function is c of x, wherein that is the total cost, equals 40x, wherein x is the number of meals. Okay, 40x is the cost per meal times the number of meals. So in this problem, x is an independent variable while c is a dependent variable that depends on the given values of x. So let's proceed to example number 2. A certain ornamental plant shop in Nabwa charges 500 pesos for a yearly membership. The first ornamental plant is free with a membership, and any plant after that costs 150 pesos including tax. How much money does a shopper spend after buying P plants and a yearly membership? So the same with number 1, we're going to answer that by following the 4 steps mentioned a while ago. So the first one is, what is asked? The problem requires us to represent the total cost in buying P plants and the yearly membership fee. So step number 2, the given. The given in the problems are the 500 pesos cost of yearly membership and the 150 pesos cost of any ornamental plant. So we need to take note that the first ornamental plant is free along with the membership. So let's proceed to step 3, the operation to be used. Okay, the operation to be used are multiplication, addition, and subtraction. Why multiplication? Because we're going to multiply the cost of each plant to the number of plants you're going to buy. And after that, we're going to add that to the annual membership. And since the first ornamental plant is free along with the membership, we will subtract 1 from the number of plants you're going to buy. So, step number 4, write a number sentence. That becomes the total cost equals the annual membership fee plus the total cost of plants both. So, since the total cost of plants votes will be represented as 150, okay, wherein 150 is the cost of each plant times the quantity of P minus 1. P here is the number of plants. We subtract 1 because 1 is free along with the membership. So, we will let M of P as the total cost equals to 500, that is the annual membership fee, plus the total cost of plants vote is 150 times the quantity of P minus 1. So, P is the number of plants. And in this problem, P is an independent variable while M is a dependent variable that depends on the given values of P. So, we're done with 2 problems. Okay, the following problems are piecewise function. A function can be in pieces. So you can create functions that behave differently based on the input x value. So a while ago, we mentioned that there are 4 steps to follow in representing functions. But for piecewise function, we will add 3 sub-steps, okay, that will fall under step 4. So the first sub-step, identify the intervals for which different rules apply. Second sub-step, determine formulas that describe how to calculate an output from an input in each interval. And the third sub-step, use braces and if statement to write the function. So those were the 3 sub-steps we're going to follow in step number 4. So let's apply that to this problem. Problem 3. A user is charged 300 pesos monthly for a particular mobile plan, which includes 100 free text messages. Messages in excess of 100 are charged 1 peso each. Represent the monthly cost for text messaging using the function T of M, where M is the number of messages sent in a month. So to answer this problem, we're just going to follow the 4 steps mentioned a while ago and the 3 sub-steps that was added in the piecewise function. So first step, what is asked? So the problem requires us to represent the monthly cost for text messaging using the function T of M, where M is the number of messages sent in a month. So that is the requirement in the problem. Then step number 2, identify the given data in the problem. So the problem has the given data of the monthly charge of the mobile plan that costs 300 pesos and a charge of 1 peso for every excess in the 100 free text messages. So step number 3, operation to be used are multiplication, addition, and subtraction. Then, the last step we're in, since it is a piecewise function, we will consider the three sub-steps that mentioned earlier. The first sub-step, identify the interval for which different rules apply. So, the first interval identified in the problem is the mobile plan costs 300 pesos for up to 100 messages. The second interval identified in the problem, over 100 messages cost 300 pesos plus 1 peso per excess in 100 messages. So let us continue that to sub-step number 2, wherein we need to determine formulas that describe how to calculate an output from an input in each interval. So the first interval will be represented by this formula. That is only 300. Okay, that is 300 if m, wherein m is the number of messages sent in a month. So m is greater than 0 but less than or equal to 100, that only costs 300 pesos. For the second interval, that will become 300 plus 1 times the quantity m minus 100 if here, if you exceed to 100. So that is 101 up. Why we subtract 100? Because that is already the cost of 300 pesos. So after that, we will use braces and if statements to write the function. So we will let t of m be the function, this one, to represent the total bill of the mobile plan. Okay, where in m is the number of text messages sent in a month. So therefore, the cost of text messaging can be expressed by this piecewise function. T of m is equal to 300 if m is greater than 0 but less than or equal to 100. And 300 plus 1 times the quantity of m minus 100 if m is greater than 100. So in this problem, the independent variable is m, while t is a dependent variable that depends on the number of sent messages. And the monthly bill for text messaging T of M is based on the number of sent messages, which is M. So let us proceed to the next example. Okay, another piecewise function with application of floor function. So a tricycle ride in a particular town costs 8 pesos for the first 4 kilometers. And each additional integer kilometer adds 150 to the fare. Use a piecewise function to represent the tricycle fare in terms of distance d in kilometers. So the same process, we're going to follow step number 1, what is asked. That is to represent the tricycle fare in terms of the distance d in kilometers using piecewise function. Then step 2, the given in the problem are the cost of the tricycle fare, which is 8 pesos for the first 4 kilometers. And each additional integer kilometer adds 150 to the fare. So step number 3, the operation to be used are multiplication and addition. Then step number 4, we're going to write those data in a number sentence. Okay, but here we will follow the 3 sub-steps because it is a piecewise function that consists multiple conditions or rules. So first sub-step, identify the intervals for which different rules apply. So the first interval identified in the problem, uh, the tricycle fare is 8 pesos for the first 4 kilometers. And over 4 kilometers, the cost is 8 pesos plus 150 per additional integer kilometer to the fare. So let us determine the formulas that describe that interval on how to calculate an output from an input in that interval. So the first interval will be 8 if the distance you travel is greater than 0 but less than or equal to 4. But if it is over 4 kilometers, we will use this one. It is represented by this formula, 8 plus 150 times the floor function of d minus 4. If the distance traveled is greater than 4. So the third sub-step, we will use braces and if statements to write the function. So let f of d be the function that will represent the total cost of the tricycle fare, wherein d is the number of kilometer. So therefore, the total cost of the tricycle fare can be expressed by this piecewise function. 8 if if d is greater than 0 but less than or equal to 4. And 8 plus 150 times the quantity of d minus the floor function of d minus 4 if d is greater than 4. So note that the floor function d is the floor function applied to d. The floor function gives the largest integer less than or equal to d. For example, the floor function 4.2, it is just equal to the floor function of 4.7, which is equal to 4. Why equal to 4? Because we're applying the floor function, we're just going to round down the values inside the symbol of the floor function. So round down 4.2, that is 4. Round down 4.7, that is just also equal to 4. So floor function can be applied also in other problems in mathematics like tax and other field. The next example for piecewise function is the ceiling function. Example 5, the fee to park in the parking lot of a shopping mall costs 35 pesos for the first 2 hours and an extra 15 pesos for each hour or a fraction of it. After that, if you park for more than 12 hours, you instead pay a flat rate of 250 pesos. Represent your parking fee using the function P of t, where t is the number of hours you park in the mall. So to answer this, we're just going to follow again the 4 steps mentioned earlier plus the 3 sub-steps for piecewise function. So First step, what is asked? The problem requires us to represent the parking fee using P of t in terms of the number of hours t you park in the mall. So, step number 2, the given in the problem are the parking fee that costs 35 pesos for the first 2 hours and an extra of 15 pesos for each hour or a fraction of it. After that, and a flat rate of 250 pesos for more than 12 hours. Then, step number 3, operation to be used are multiplication and addition. So, step number 4, with sub-steps 1, identify the intervals for which the different rules apply. Okay, the intervals identified in the problem. The first one, the parking fee is 35 pesos for the first 2 hours. Second, over 2 hours, the cost is 35 pesos plus 15 pesos for each hour or a fraction of it. Then, for more than 12 hours, there will be a flat rate of 250 pesos. To represent that into formulas, that becomes the parking fee is 35. So if for the first 2 hours, so if t is greater than 0 but less than or equal to 2, that is 35. Then if t is greater than 2 but less than or equal to 12, this one will be the representation. 35 plus 15 times the ceiling function of t minus 2. Then, for the third interval, that is greater than 12, if you park your car for more than 12 hours, that is just 250. So, we'll use braces and if statements to write that function. So, we will let T of M be the cost of parking fee, where T is the number of hours you park in the mall. And therefore, the function will be expressed as this one. P of t is equal to 35 if t is greater than 0 but less than or equal to 2. Then 35 plus 15 times the ceiling function of t minus 2 if t is greater than 2 but less than or equal to 12. And 250 if t is greater than 12. So in this problem, t is the independent variable while p of t is the dependent variable. So we need to note that the ceiling function rather of t is the ceiling function applied to t. The ceiling functions gives the smallest integer greater than or equal to t. So for example, the ceiling function of 5.3 is just equal to the ceiling function of 5.7, which is equal to 6. So why equal to 6? Because we just round up the value inside the symbol of the ceiling function. So round up 5.3, that is 6. Round up 5.7, that is also equal to 6. So that's it for our first module representing real life situations using functions. So again, thank you. This is Sir Arthur Lawrence Yee, your teacher for this module.